and we're at the halfway point of our ACG Show and Tell Summer Series. I'll be bringing my guest in shortly. So, for those of you who don't know, this is the ACG Social Mixer, which stands for Anime, Comic, and Game Social Mixer. It's for all things related to anime, comic, and gaming. And if you are a fan, if you are a creative, if you're a performer of anything anime, comic, and game related, please tune in and join us in this social mixer. So if you have any questions for our guest that will be here shortly, any questions for me related to anime, comic, and gaming, shoot them in the comment below. Or when this goes on Instagram Live shortly after this, you could put in the comments there as well. So of course, these are always sponsored by nerdlife_geeklife. So nerdlife geek life Instagram page. So please go to their page for all things related to anime, comic, game related conventions, pop news, culture, if you are into that sort of vibe. Yes, thank you all for joining me. So thanks for everyone who is here right now. Please share this with anyone else you think is going to be interested in anime, comic, and gaming. Main reason for me to bring this platform or the social mixer platform to those on Instagram. Before it used to be in physical space. So I saw it as a creative and a enthusiast myself that this was a niche that was not being networked properly. It was always at conventions and you just go, you say hi to someone, you see them online, and then that's it. You know, do you really talk? Do you really connect? Do you really bring some sort of creativity to the table? So these social mixers was that for, to bring especially local creatives and local communities together who are in the anime, comic, and gaming world as well. Because we know there's a lot of local communities, especially in New York City, Bronx, Queens, and not much is happening in as far as connection, as far as networking, especially conventions. Like we have to go all the way to Brooklyn or Manhattan to the Javits for any kind of conventions or after parties going on. So I wanted this to be a different vibe, a casual, chill vibe where you connect with fans, enthusiasts, any cosplay, anyone, any creative, and network, and just find a way to collaborate and bring community and creativity to the table. That. So I'm going to be bringing in my guests right now. So thank you all for joining us. So let me do that. Hello,
Hey,
thank you
Rosa,
for
what's
joining. Good, thank you so much. Let me just fix my camera. It's so weird because like when I add people, my camera gets shifted, so it's gotta fix it up.
Yeah,
All right.
but it's good. It's good. Everyone's good.
Oh man, thank you so much for joining me. So I want to introduce you properly. So please welcome the amazing Apolonia Nunez. Goes by Apple Nunez. She is the player of games, reader of comics, and digital illustrator from NYC, from New York City. So she fits perfectly in this social mixer as a virtual guest. So I thank you for reaching out to me
Thank
and
you.
wanting to do this
Yeah.
so
Dude,
much.
I've been watching a couple of the last episodes, and I love what you do and everything. So it's cool. My heart's like beating a lot, but it's cool.
No, it's okay. It's great. You know, we'll eventually, chill and chillax. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of vibe I want to bring, especially with COVID being up in the air. We didn't know what was going to
Yeah.
happen. So finding a space that we could just socialize and still do the things we love and reach out to those who are interested in it as well.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
So before I get into what we'll be talking about and what you'll be showing us, just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are.
Yeah, so I am a New Yorker. I'm an illustrator. Basically, I've been drawing since like forever, since I could hold a pencil. So just like what's it called? Yeah, illustrating, digital art. I draw a lot of like animation based work, sort of like animation inspired, comic book inspired. Just like, some fan art here and there, but just like anything that like really I feel passionate about. So, you know, and yeah, I do freelance on the side. I do illustration for like, anyone who needs any kind of graphic, comic book covers, book covers, anything. So yeah, I've been doing it for years. So
Yeah, I saw the recent one you just did with Rios and
Yeah.
his comic strip. So tell me a little bit about that because I met Rios last year and we've been connecting ever since. And I'm so amazed that you both were able to do something together.
Yeah. Oh my God. And he's so talented too. I love like,
Mhm.
so, with Rios, I met Rios also last year. I think it was at it was like the Patches and Pins Expo. I think it was in
Right.
Brooklyn.
Right.
Yeah, and like and I was visiting there because like some friends from Texas were visiting and they were also showcasing their work. But I walked around the floor and I found Rios's table and like he had like he was selling like it was like his craft baby I think this like figure of this like baby
Yeah.
Renzo like kaiju that he does and like he had just like so much stuff. So like we connected. Me and my boyfriend we like bought some of his stuff and like we kept in touch. We've been like supporting each other's work like ever since. And then like finally, I guess like it was around when COVID happened, like just before all of that, when like he reached out, we were like thinking about like maybe collaborating on doing an illustration for one of his characters. So I was really excited because I love his work, and so that eventually turned into a comic book cover, which is pretty cool.
No, that's amazing because you said the key word there, just supporting each other,
Yeah.
especially throughout this whole process and knowing that, we still could create or we still could like, confide in one another and other people to, even if we are having creative block or something, it's okay to be where you are in this
Yeah.
present moment. Just have that support system to know where to go after that. Like if you feel yourself stagnant. But you guys did such an amazing job. I can't wait to see and hear more about it. I have Rios coming on in a couple of weeks, so he'll
Yes.
share more about it as well. So it's
Nice.
amazing how you both met. It's a small world, so I'm so glad that you were able to make that connection happen.
Yeah. Yeah, me
So
too.
so besides that, I know you said you're a native New Yorker, so I'm a native New Yorker as well. And growing up, it was difficult to even find spaces or people just to like talk to about anime, comic, and gaming. Like I admit, like I'm a closet gamer, meaning like I didn't tell people that I gamed, especially as a female, because they saw it as weird. I had read comics when I was young. My uncle would bring them over. I was a big Storm from X-Men fan
Yes.
and, grew up watching anime eventually and then gaming. I just always found this connection with gaming, which we'll get into in other ways, like how it's helped us, shift our lives. So I want to know your perspective on like growing up loving anime, comic, and gaming. Was it similar, different, especially as a New Yorker as well?
Yeah. Well, so let's see. I had like a little bit of a different upbringing, I guess. Like so, like with high school and stuff. Like I went to a specialized high school for like for art specifically. So I
Hmm.
think that sort of changed the atmosphere because everyone was really passionate about something. So like you could like kind of easily find, those like little niches and like little like groups of like, people that were like really either into anime, into like comics, like certain movies, anything like that. So what I struggled with though was like actually like speaking and like connecting with a lot of people. So
Hmm.
like I had my close group of friends, but yeah, I've always been like super like I had like a lot of social anxiety growing up, so like I still kind of like I guess like almost closeted myself.
Hmm.
um but like there are all these amazing like people, amazing like pop culture things happening around me, and I was like, oh, I want to be a part of it so bad. But like for whatever reason I still stood away from it a little bit. But I did always play games. When I would get home, I would always like either be on the PC like playing like MMOs or like
Hmm.
Xbox, PlayStation. Just it was
Hmm.
a great escape. It was a great like muse like to draw like
Hmm.
inspiration from too, and I just loved going into those worlds. So
Right. Yeah, that definitely was for me as well. And I think I also use it as part of my education as well. I saw like if I saw a story in an anime or a video game, I loved it. I found a way to twist it into essays I had to write in school.
yeah.
I actually won a scholarship with American Airlines and Continental. No, it's American Express and Continental Airlines. It was a scholarship for going to high school to college. And I said, I'm gonna write about the space-time continuum, but I'm gonna use some stuff from Chrono Cross, the video game of PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
So I added some ideas from that, and they were like, "Oh, congrats, you won." I was like, "What?" So I was like, so it's like you use what you love,
Exactly,
and
yeah.
take something, use it to, to go further. So, you got to find a way that is going to work for you. So for me, I use it in an academic sense, and I think a lot of, young people nowadays, especially they grew up in this, it wasn't something that was growing as we were growing up. They're in it. They're in the internet. They're involved in games, their parents probably gamed before and were in anime and comics. So it's around their life so much as well, so much more. So I think more is, we're going to get a better understanding from the older crowd, older people, understanding like how important it is. And there's still some convincing we got to do for some people, but I'm for it. I'm all for convincing people how important it is, the positive shift that anime, comics, and games do have in our society and our young people.
Same, yeah. I was reading something, I think it was last week, and it was about like educators and like, and this happened a lot in like my school too, when I was like reading and thinking about it. Basically there were a lot of kids that they were really into anime, really into manga, and they wanted to sort of like incorporate that into their work, but like it wasn't like really taken as seriously as like Eurocentric like kind of styles of work. So like they like had to find a way to incorporate that style in like their own way, and that's in a way like kind of how they like came out with their style too. Like but yeah, I was reading that and like reading through like comments and what other people had to say too, and just like thinking it's honestly like really good to like take that, like when you see somebody who's like really passionate about anime, really passionate about video games, whatever their muse is, like ask them about it. I guess like ask them like what they take from it, and like what they're like why they like it, and like let them like sort of like explore that, because like it doesn't help to just shut it down and it doesn't help to like feel like kids are sort of having to change like what they're interested in, or just like kind of hide it or closet it or something. So
yeah, I think that's an important value, and something as an educator myself and also a parent, have my own kids, I want to shift that narrative as well, make it a positive one, have a balance between the two.
yeah,
So that's it. That was a great article, thank you for that.
yeah.
So I want to get into the show and tell piece. So we'll be also talking as well. So some of the topics that we'll be talking about is related to mental health and art making process. We'll be talking about representation in ACG, anime, comic, game, and media, and also how make yourself making art and taking commissions during this COVID-19. So just tell us what you'll be showing us, and then I'll let, before I ask, go with the questions and the conversations.
Yeah. So let's see. So I have like a thing set up here. I'm just gonna like do for the live draw. I'm gonna like hover, attach this phone, and just I'm gonna be drawing on an iPad, because that's like what I've been doing most of my drawings on lately, because it's portable, it's super easy. For showing, I have, let's see, I have this, like, I brought the comic cover that I worked on, because that's like the latest thing that I have, and I'm super proud of it. So it looks so cute. And
yeah,
food stamps, of course, Rios' stuff. Definitely check it out. But yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, let me just set this up, and I guess, and then we could like continue talking.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
This too. Okay.
Yeah, so as you're setting that up, I'll just talk to the audience here. So thank you all for joining, those of you who are watching and those of you who will watch later on. So as Apolonia is setting up her live draw session coming soon, those of you who have any questions, please leave them in the comment box here via Instagram Live, or you could comment later on when this goes on Instagram TV. You can also see this on repeat on Instagram TV as well, along with the other 4 previous guests that were on here before. So thank you all who are here attending. Remember, this is a social mixer, casual and chill vibe environment. So if you ever want to connect with our virtual guests, please reach out to them on Instagram. I will have their information in the description when to go on Instagram TV, so you can find it on there as well. Okay. All right. So I'll let Apolonia explain a little bit about what she's doing before I get into the first topic.
Sure. So I was doodling a little bit of this like before, just to kind of like unwind a bit. So basically what I was gonna like draw today, I guess for you guys, was I have this character from Dungeons and Dragons that I wanted
Hmm.
to play as, and she's a tiefling. She her name is Kuyanta. She's like, I wanted to basically create a character that I felt like I could connect with a little bit. So she's a little, a little quiet, a little what's it called? She loves to explore. She is like her name specifically comes from like these two Quechua words from Peru,
Mm.
meaning queen and firewood. So queen of firewood is like essentially what her name is, and like I'm trying to basically have her like harness all these spells and stuff. So there's a whole story that I created for her that it's kind of funny when we play like Dungeons and Dragons. Like there are those people who like create these really elaborate stories for the characters, and then like it almost never gets asked about, but
Hmm.
it's still really fun to do. And that's like always been one of my passions, is like creating characters, and like part of why I got into illustration too.
So you enjoy more of like the backstory, the creation of the backstory of the character, because I know just the character's design, we see so much maybe color or depth of the character and mystery to it as well. It's also knowing like just a little bit of background about this character.
Yeah, it's definitely something that like really helps me, like as I'm designing what she might look like. I really think about like, okay, what does this clothing choice mean like for her character? What is this like, where did she get like this artifact that she carries around? How did she come upon it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, those are definitely great things to, look at and take notice of. Because I think that sometimes that's creatives do. They sometimes, as they're drawing as well, they already wonder where each of these pieces come from, how they decided to either wear that piece or have that piece of armor or item they decide to use, or they look as well. It's important to who the character is also as an individual.
Right. Absolutely.
So the first topic here is you wanted to talk a little bit about mental health in the art making process. So tell us a little bit about that interest for you.
Yeah, so and like disclaimer, I wanted to say I'm like in no way, shape, or form an expert in mental health. I just have a lot of like personal experiences that I could draw from. But one of the main things that I wanted to talk about in terms of mental health is like anxiety and depression, I guess. Basically, and like how like you could like using art specifically and drawing as a way of like kind of like meditating and slowing things down and sort of like centering yourself again, so that you could
Mm.
feel a little more like back in control a little bit. So and yeah, that's a lot of like what I struggle with too, and I like have struggled with. Like I get a lot of anxiety, I get a lot of social anxiety, but I feel like art has been helping me a lot. um
Right. Hmm.
and let's see, with like, so anxiety itself, super common. It's basically like the mind and body's like reaction to like stress and like dangerous, like
Hmm.
unfamiliar situations. And like it's kind of like it's that feeling of like uneasiness and distress, and it's honestly like a feeling that probably many of us have experienced already
Right. Hmm.
in our lives. But like it serves a purpose, of course. It's like it like makes you alert. It keeps you like more aware of like the circumstances, the situation. But there are like certain like moments where it feels like it's almost debilitating. It feels like
Hmm.
you can only focus on the thing that's like giving you anxiety and then like kind of like feeling. So it's like, oh, sorry.
It's okay.
So I experienced that a lot, and like I feel that, like, funny enough, art making and also like cosplay is like when a lot of those
Hmm.
worries start to sort of fade away, and I get to just like kind of enjoy the moment a lot more. And I'm
Hmm.
still kind of figuring out why exactly that is, but I'm really happy that it's something that I like absolutely enjoy doing. I love cosplay. I love creating props. I love drawing. I love like, you know, taking on a identity like of a character. I love like, you know, exploring identity in characters when I draw. So it's kind of like a, yeah, like it all kind of goes like hand in hand in some way.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's interesting you say that as well, because my former guest,
Mm-hmm.
that I had episode 3, I believe. Yeah, episode 3. It feels like it's been a long time. So yeah, in episode 3, my guest, Dean,
Yes.
he talks about mental health and how cosplaying has helped him so much in the whole process. And I think it's something important, especially as creatives or just anybody in general, to find what that is, what that object is, or what that state of mind is to help you to cope with that process. You know, I know for myself, meditation is important for me. You know, it helps me
Right.
to be grounded and to relax. And that's why I pursued more of yoga and mindfulness, not only for myself, but it helps me as an educator and as a parent. You know, it goes into so many different things. And also is something that once we're able to find what that is, that will help us in our mental health journey,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we appreciate it more. We find purpose in it. And it's finding what that, you know, what that is that's going to help us along the way. And I think there is no one right way, you know, and whatever path that is for you and anybody else, you know, that's going to be important for them. And it's not going to be perfect. You know, I think
Right.
that's one of the things that no one talks about. They, you know, especially like self-care and, you know, sometimes it's going to be days that it's not going to look good, you know, and, you know, it's all the part of the process. It's, you know, growing pains is learning how to grow from that and nurturing that and being aware. I think being mindful and aware of the anxiety, because at times I get anxiety as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I worry a lot, especially with kids, you know, and I got kids, is like worry even more. So is wondering, you know, where is this coming from? Is this out of a place of love or fear that I'm feeling these things? So it's trying to find that space that works for me, that outlet that works for me. And sometimes it is reading something that's going to lift me up, like a self-help book, or
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be meditation. Sometimes it's even the video games, like we talked about, you know,
Yes.
sometimes playing a video game to get my mind off of things, or maybe there's something in an anime I watch and I'll relate to that character, or I'll relate to what the story or the premise is of that anime or that comic. So being able to also drawing, I'm sure, is so important in that process because it also shows a piece of your growth and your nurturing and mental health as well, how you are shifting that whole paradigm of the pains you went through and also the growths and, you know, the love that you developed in this whole journey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So I think everyone that has anything related to mental health, you know, it's always an important topic to have, not to shun from it and have a taboo about it. So if you are like Apolonia as well and you draw, please let us know. Like, what are some things you draw? What are some creative outlets you have as well? Or if you're like myself that meditates, takes time to play a video game, let us know what games are you playing. You know, put them in the comment box below as well. What do you do for bringing that creative side when it comes to mental health? So thank you so much, Apolonia, for sharing that journey with us. It's much appreciated to know and to have that, especially growing up as New Yorkers, as Latinas, you know, it
Mm-hmm.
sometimes is sort of a taboo topic, you know, to talk about certain things, you know. So I appreciate that. You know, we have, especially now in our generation, we have that space that we could be vulnerable and transparent, open to one another about it, the journey.
I'm so thankful for that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's even like just with social media and stuff, it's very, like you have like that freedom to be open about like any topic that you want, and also like that ability to find like a community and like or just a support group within there, you know, even if it's like on like a lighter subject, even if it's about something that you love, like, you know, a fan base, like it's so much
Mm-hmm.
easier to find that now, and I just really appreciate the internet for that. I really appreciate this
Mm-hmm.
time for it.
Yeah, it's finding the positives that comes from social media and the internet. And that's something I talked about with my former guests as well. You know, just finding where you feel comfortable, where you could fit that realm as well, because it's not just outside, it's also in social media too. And I think that's something parents and educators are going to get more understanding of, not just get the fear piece of it and the worry of it. So finding that there's positives to it. There is networks and things we could create and support systems as well and communities.
Yes.
So I want to talk to you also about, you mentioned representation in anime, comic, and gaming and media. So we've seen in the past, maybe 20, 30 years, there's always been creatives, there's always been comic artists that have used representation from their culture into the comic book industry. But it took so many years later for that to be recognized. Mm-hmm. So where do you feel that the media, where you feel the entertainment industry or just the comic book industry, even anime and gaming, I'll throw that in there as well. Mm-hmm. Where do you feel they are when it comes to representation?
So I feel like they're still a long way away, but they're getting there. Like, so, one thing that always like immediately pops up for me, like being I'm half Peruvian, half Polish, and like, it wasn't until I played the newest Tomb Raider game where I saw any character that had like that like Peruvian descent, I guess. Mm-hmm. And because it like took place in Peru, and there were so many more characters like that I felt like I could relate to, and like, they looked like my cousins, they looked like my family, so mm-hmm. It was like but then I like, it's like a little bittersweet because like you said, and you think about it, it's like, okay, there aren't that many other options out there. And it's the same with any kind of like with like media and games, like they're definitely getting a lot better with it, but I feel like there's just so much more growth that could happen, and I'm really excited for that, especially now that things are like people are becoming more aware of the lack of representation of like certain cultures, and like honestly most cultures. I'm seeing a lot of like independent things coming out where people are a little more like I guess like conscious, but also like coming from the same place where they want to bring that forward. And so there's this one RPG game that I've been following, and it's like called the Wagadu Chronicles, and it's like all about mm-hmm. like ancient African lore, and it's honestly, it's beautiful. All the like concept art that they've released of it so far, things like that. I just love to see that. So, I think it's like, it's getting there, but it's still got, it's in terms of like the media as a whole, I think they have like more, like a longer journey, but it's getting there for sure.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with you too, because there's only so much that, okay, you put the character on the screen or you put them on the paper. There has to be more to it, like you were mentioning before. There has to be more character development yes. on them, like who they are as a person, what was their social background, what was their cultural background, not just be like, okay, we have this person of color on here on the screen, or we got this female lead character on the screen, right. It's like, give us more in depth about that character, give us more story. So we're seeing little bits of it in Disney, especially, mm-hmm. Has shifted the way they've done narration of certain characters. And it's really refreshing to see that, especially as young girls, and especially as we're growing up, for young boys to see it as well, so everyone to see that dynamic, that shift, and it's not always the same thing coming out, or like, okay, we have this character of color, but that's it, so, I really appreciate that there is some shifts happening, and I really would hope in the future they do give some credit, especially big comic book industries like Marvel and DC, that they do give credit to all their former comic creatives, and on artist creatives as well, who have pushed those barriers and decided to be like, okay, we're going to create these characters, but they allow them the chance to create their background story, to create who they are as an individual, what their culture is, how they're shaped because of that.
Right.
As well.
To have like a fully fleshed out character that's like, obviously like also written by a person of color, I think is like very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's this representation, and we see that a lot more how important representation is, and I'm one for it, and I've seen how great it does for my own children, and how they're, seeing it at such a young age, and what influence it has for them.
Yeah, it's definitely an important thing. My boyfriend has like these like he has nieces, and they're like, I believe 4 right now, and like they
Mm-hmm.
love watching Disney so much, and like all the everything like made for children right now, like with the animated series and stuff, and like they're seeing a lot more like they're growing up with like princesses that are of like Spanish princess. I think her name is like uh Princess of Avalor or Avalon, like
Oh,
those.
Elena of Avalor.
Elena,
Y-
yes.
Yeah, my daughter watches her.
It's so awesome though, because like you don't get that moment where you have to like think, oh, this is a great character, but like I don't like fully see myself in that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm really happy for them, for that whole generation now to like be able to experience a little more of that. um yeah. And we just like love it to be even more, but soon I
Mm-hmm.
hope.
Yeah, but I think it's also the nurturing, we go back to not only mental health in our own selves, but also in a society as well. So having representation is a type of mental health in its own way. If you look at it deeper, because we're shaping the mindset of the culture of society, and we're shifting it in a way that's going to bring, openness to others of culture, openness of those of gender, and I think it just, these things take time, but the time I see is now, and it's
Hmm.
doing those steps, doing those solutions to make those things happen.
Yes, I think the gender thing is also like a huge topic, and in terms of like so gender representation, and also like um what's it called, like there's that whole thing. It came up recently too. I remember there was a huge topic going around on like art Twitter, uh discussing
Mm-hmm.
Abby from Last of Us 2, and just like how
Uh-huh.
her physique is like, it kind of like it breaks the mold, I guess, of what people are used to
Mm-hmm.
seeing in video games, and I think it's amazing. um
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally for seeing strong women characters. We need more of that, clearly, because people were very upset about it
Mm-hmm.
for some reasons. And I think it's important to have more of that, though, to like, kind of like normalize that. Like, there isn't just like one body type that caters to one type of person. There's like, these could be actually like, these could be like characters that actually influence people, or these could be like characters that actually, are relatable for people and make the
Mm-hmm.
experience that much more, that much more like favorable and like important. So,
Mm-hmm. Yes. So before I get into the next topic you wanted to talk about,
sure.
tell us a little bit about this process that you're doing here. Because there's some
Yeah.
new people that tuned in, so thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, everyone. So with this one, I'm working a little slowly right now, but basically, I start with a really rough sketch, and,
Mm-hmm.
looking more like this area here. And then from there, I kind of like, I play with opacity, always work in layers. So, this would be like the rough sketch. I just like to block out like, the area, just to see like what the composition, what the figure actually looks like. It usually helps to like have like a color underneath here. And then like from there, it's like, more like finer sketches until I finally get to something that I like. And like sometimes it's a very quick process. Other times it takes days. Sometimes I work on a piece, like, I put it away, I come back after a few weeks, and I like,
Mm-hmm.
open it up again. I'm always working on something, but yeah, the process changes. Like it varies like from piece to piece. And I'm still trying to like figure out like what's like the most effective workflow, I guess, for me and my style of work,
Mm-hmm.
and you know how to just like output work that I enjoy, but also in like a faster way, I guess, or a more predictable way, um,
Mm-hmm.
because that definitely helps with time management, which is something that we need as creatives. So you know
No, that's great. I wanted to actually, you brought up the next point I wanted to ask before we get into your last topic, about the skills, like skills that you as an artist and a creative feel like you have, or you feel like those who are young and are interested in getting into this field, what they would need? So what do you think are, like you said, time management? What are some others, whether they're, besides the hard skills of like knowing how to draw, knowing how to use Photoshop, what are some other, they call them as soft skills, like what are some other skills that you think young people will need if they want to get it? Or maybe even people who are in it now and they're struggling with it. What are some skills, other skills besides time management?
Right. I think for anyone looking to, I guess, create, figurative work, definitely study from reference. Definitely, like, like study from life if you can. I use Pinterest all the time. I have so many Pinterest boards for different things like figures, hair, faces, anything that might spark some kind of, what's it called? Some kind of like inspiration for me. I put it in a Pinterest board and then I could reference it later. So referencing is definitely very important because it helps you figure out, like awkward areas where like you're not sure how a limb might work, or like how like in terms of like positioning, or maybe how light casts on a figure, any kind of like little bit of reference for that is definitely helpful. And it helps build your, like, I guess, like internal database, I guess, of, eventually over time you kind of like learn automatically in your head like how to place these things, and like, but that all comes with practice and using reference for sure.
Right.
Let's see, other things. I think one of the most important things is to not be afraid of destroying your work, I guess. Like, and by that I mean,
right.
Yeah, by that I mean, like, don't get so caught up in like those very, very like, detailed things. Don't feel like so like devoted to like any one area of your drawing, because like you might find that by taking that apart and deconstructing it, you'll come out with a better piece, or like you'll discover something new, whether it's a technique or whether it's like the actual, final outcome of the piece altogether. You might discover that you like that more. So like not being afraid of like really just like picking apart your work, I think is very important. Learning how to take critique, learning how to take, just like staying open, I guess, staying open to ideas, staying open to what might help your workflow and your art as a whole, I think is very important.
Yeah, those are very important, to be open, and especially to critique, because as artists and just people in general, we get even the attached part you said, we get attached to what we do and what we think we at the moment. And when someone tells us of negative critique, it really hurts us deep inside. But it's not really about you personally. And I think most people have to realize that it's not you about personally. It's just, just about the work. It's something that you can improve on, so you can get better on. We have social media. Yeah, sure, there's trolls and there's people that just get kicks off of like saying whatever. And those are the people that we don't mind. It's going to be people like that even outside of social media. And it's just now we have social media that they're free to say it, but it's a much different time when they could tell you to your face, believe me. But I think the critique part is so important because it helps you to grow. It helps you to build that resilience and that mental resilience as well, of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do to get better. And they're seeing something that, you question yourself, why are they saying this? Why are they seeing this? And I think it's very important, critique to have of yourself as well. Like, especially if someone's taking it in a personal level, like to ask yourself, why am I taking this so personally? And to go from there, because it's probably something more deeper than what they said. It could have said, I don't like the way you drew that face, but, maybe it's not even about that. It could be something more deeper that you're unaware of as a person growing, so making connection back to what we talked about mental health and representation as well. And it was interesting you mentioned about tearing up your art to do something new, because my husband, he took some kind of art, I can't remember what type of art drawing class he took in college, and the professor told them to create something at first, and they took their time drawing or whatever, and then he tells them, okay, now I want you to rip it up and make something out of the pieces of it.
That's awesome.
So, so he was like fine with it. He didn't mind, but there was, people in his class that were just like, what? And that goes back to it made me think about when I took art class. I took art and design when I was in college too. And, it made me think about how attached we become to the piece, even if it's, because we put so much of our thought process and, we feel like, the time, like you said, I worked so hard on this. And to hear someone say, I got to rip this up.
Yeah.
That's where we have to learn to detach. We have to detach from whatever we created, because that's a life lesson, and more than just a drawing. It's teaching you how to detach from other things in life that don't matter and how to create something new from it.
Absolutely. It definitely works as a life lesson too, like you said, because otherwise you'll just like get focused on like maybe the wrong thing, or you won't know how to, I guess you won't know how to, like, it stunts you from growing as an individual, but also as an artist. Yes. But like in a greater sense, it's like you want to avoid, I guess, that kind of habit.
Yeah, definitely. And that takes, I'm sure, a lot of soul searching for some people, and hopefully with this whole COVID-19 experience, they get to find that, in some way, shape, or form, that don't get attached to what you're used to, because it could get flipped. Absolutely. As we see with so many things. And I want to talk about that last topic, because you mentioned about making art during COVID-19. I'm sure there's been a lot of people who have gone through that trial process of things ripping in front of them metaphorically and having to create something new. So tell us a little bit about that, how the making art process has been for you during this whole pandemic. Yeah, so and I was talking to a few of my other art friends too, and it's been hard to be completely honest. It was weird. I think it was the first couple months of COVID. A lot of us, like a lot of, like, my initial group, we were like kind of lost. We didn't know how to complete a piece. We couldn't like really focus that well, like, and part of it was like the like overall anxiety of the situation of like being in a pandemic and having to sort of like readjust to what your daily life is expected to be. But then also like it was that kind of like change of routine, or like absence, like very like sudden absence of routine, that kind of like maybe harmed our like our work, creativity, I guess, like in some way. At least for me, it was definitely that way. Like I remember like sitting on the couch staring at the ceiling and thinking, why can't I draw? Why can't I, like, I feel so what's it called, like unproductive. And then like that was like another thing that I had to break out of too, is like understanding that you're more than what your productivity is. And a lot of people say that too, but it's really hard to like actually accept that, or like like adopt that into your way of thinking. So because a lot of like creatives too, like you, like, especially when you're posting on social media, if you don't have anything to share, if you don't get that kind of engagement, you feel like you could get that sense of feeling that, like, maybe you're falling off, like, sort of like the edge of like all what's it called, like relevance, which is like absolutely ridiculous too. You do not have to feel that way. Everybody, everybody's got a life. People are busy, and also people work in different paces. So it took a little bit for me to figure out how to like jump back into making art, especially since I've been fortunate enough to work from home. But it was just like it was an odd time, because like all of a sudden there was all this time that we were hoping we would have, and it's like we can't function in it. Like we're not as productive as we thought we would be. But part of what helped was talking about it, and also like finally getting a commission, and like and having that like build up, and like sort of like have that be the ball that like sets things rolling. And like so
like with the sudden routine changes and stuff in COVID, I feel like like having to sort of like construct your own routine was a major part, like major like thing that helped me like do any kind of commissions right now, because it was just very hard. That's all I remember, is that it was just like all over the place. But yeah, I managed to like finish the artwork. In the beginning, you know, it took a little bit, but the artist was like very, or rather the creator was very patient, very understanding. And then like from there, it just like I started like, you know, making art again, and then everything started picking up, and I started, you know, getting back to my normal pace. I feel I've been making a lot more artwork now and posting a lot more, and it's like a good momentum. I feel it's like finally finally, like, you know, got it
Right.
in this pandemic situation, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah. I think it's going back to, like you said, you know, just finding your grounding, I guess if you want to call it that, like where you are in all of this. It's okay to float around if you have to, as long as you don't get lost in it. And, you know, once you find that footing and those people that will support you, you know, that goes a long way, you know, finding that support group or accountability buddy, whatever it might be for anybody out there. And, or even taking the space. Like if someone says, look, if you just need someone to vent to, someone to listen to throughout this whole process, to know where you're going to go in the next steps, creatively or just mentally, you know, find that, you know, find who that is or what that is for you. And I think, especially the beginning months, 3 months, I would say, of the COVID-19 with the whole lockdown, it was sort of like a shock factor for a lot of people, because it was, you know, a lot of, especially the older generation, prior to those who have the internet, it was always the grind of hard work, 9 to 5, putting food on the table, paying the rent, you know. So now when all that shut down, that sense of, okay, what am I going to do? You know, like mentality. Right. Or like you said, some people that did wish for that time, you know, they have all the time now. Now what? So it's finding, you know, yourself collectively in that, and also with those around you, like where you could go from there, you know, that growth process, even if it's nurturing yourself, taking a pause too, you know, like I always tell myself and those in my circle, like I took these months to pause for presence. That's what I call it. And, you know, while I worked from home, you know, it also gave me a chance to be present with my kids and realize how I could help them as well more in not only the academic, but social as well, you know, because they're young, they're unaware of what's happening fully, you know, they know little things here and there, but being present with them and seeing how they're processing it and how I'm processing it as well. So definitely checking in with myself and checking in with others, you know, who've been with me in this journey as well, friends, family, even those I've never met, but we've clicked or engaged with one another through social media, just checking in with them. And I think that was important to do during this pandemic, and finding your footing, you know, is, you know, it's a great step forward.
Absolutely.
You know, and right. So Money May Smitty says, I didn't realize I had anxiety once I was working from home. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize what's going on with them until they have to sit down, and be still mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And then they realize all this stuff that they weren't working on internally is coming up.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that, Apolonia?
on that wake up call?
Yeah.
Well, just yeah, I completely agree. It's definitely I mean, it's kind of like what you mentioned earlier about like meditation, I guess, and like kind of that like sense of mindfulness, but also like mindfulness about yourself, and like kind of like being able to face whatever, you know, like the things that like maybe like never really wanted to face. Like there was always some kind of like maybe distraction or like a lot going on in like, you know, everyone's day to day, and then like for everything to like come to a standstill a little bit. I think it's definitely important to address it, and it's important to like, you know, for your own health too, to just like find a way to like process it in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's important as well, the processing. And for you, I see it, it's been the art. So tell us more about the commissions as well. For those who are just joining, thank you for joining as well so far.
Thank you.
So you mentioned commissions. I want to give you some space, but we got 9 minutes left before Instagram loves to kick us out.
Oh my God, no.
That's probably the little Instagram robots. But tell us a little bit about your commissions, or maybe anything you're looking toward, that, or any kind of commission work that you'd love to try, that maybe someone can help you with that, or connect you with that.
Well, I could start on like some of the commissions that I've been getting. A few portrait pieces, which I always love to do portraits. And like so those, it's always really fun taking on a commission, because you get to there's like that communication that happens like between you and your client, and like, you get to, it's just like really satisfying and awesome when you could like bring their ideas to life almost, I guess, or like, or just like, maybe they're a creative themselves and like they could do this themselves too, but like to kind of like offer up their ideas in a new perspective, and like have that actually be received well, I think is just like such a satisfying, like such a like fun experience. That's why I love doing it. And so, a lot of portraits, like some family portraits, a few like little things here and there, a logo design someone asked me to help with recently, so I dabble in it. I do a little logo design. I like focus more on illustration, but like I can help. So I've been like helping this person out, like finding like, how, in terms of points, like, what to look for, like what you definitely want to avoid in a logo. You never want it to be too busy, things like that. So like we've been like bouncing ideas back and forth, and like that, things like that, where I'm like, I try to be as honest as I can, like in terms of like my expertise with it. So like things with that, we just like try and like, it's a lot more collaborative of a process, I think.
Yes.
So, that's the only difference that I have like with like pieces like that. But yeah, a lot of just like illustrations and portraits. Yeah, just trying to like fit time between like work and everything to just like complete those as fast as I can, because I also feel very awful if my client has to wait for too long, which in the beginning it was happening a lot because I was still finding my
especially now, I think with COVID, I mean, I call it COVID time, because I mean, like, we're all in this, space of either it feels like one long whole day, like the longest day ever.
Dude, it does.
Or it feels like, we're going step by step. So I think we each have to be aware and open to each other, and just give each other that leeway, not forever, but, like, okay, I understand. And just I think, like you said, collaboration, and keep each other posted on what's going on. So that's great. So before I get into my last question I have for you, do you want to tell us one last thing about this piece before I get into my last question?
Yeah, sure. So it's still very rough. But like it's
that's good.
Yeah,
it's fine.
But like what's it called? I guess the character itself, I was just like I draw a lot, like from, well, I'm drawing in terms of like drawing inspiration from like a lot of video games that I play. So like recently I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I just got it, so now, well, at the time, now I'm hoping to get into it.
I hope you can, dude. Well, I'm not gonna hype it up too much, but it's fun. But like I kind of wanted to, well, I guess not intentionally though, but like I wanted to create a character for this campaign, but then also I ended up drawing a lot of inspiration from that game, and I realized this after, because like she is a character who is a this character specifically, she lives in like a kind of like a rural town, and she is a hunter gatherer as like as her job, and then like she ends up exploring this this old like alien shipwreck. And the thing with like D&D is like for warlocks, which this character is specifically, you're supposed to have like a patron, and a patron is like the, you know, this like demon or whatever that like grants you your ability to cast magic. So I kind of wanted to like spin sci-fi into there somehow, so I made her like encounter her patron, which is this object here, on an like abandoned alien spaceship. So while she was like traveling and like, you know, venturing around, and so this thing is like basically like whispers to her, and it whispers her like, you know, incantations.
Wow, that's awesome.
And like that's how she learns her magic. But like that whole like kind of like bit of technology, I guess, because she thinks it's a deity, but like it's like really, you know, it's really just like a communication piece, and I'm trying to figure out like what's going on. It's that whole like kind of theme is like very similar to Aloy's story, like in a way, and that they're like, you know, they're like little bits and pieces, like because she has a communication device that she also finds, and like she like instead of like, you know, really speaking to her though, like it helps her traverse the world like that, you know, you end up as a player, like, you know, traveling through and things like that. So
no, that's great. I look forward to, if you get the chance to finish this, that we get to see it.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Be awesome. So with 2 minutes, you could bring the camera back to yourself if you like. That's great. This is the casual vibe we got. So just to answer this last question in about 2 minutes, how do you envision, because my philosophy, of course, is collaboration.
Right.
For reshaping communities and creative ideas. So how do you envision collaboration for yourself as an artist and as an individual?
Like as an artist working with other people? Like
yeah, or just in general, like,
So I would love to like help do like any kind of like visual development. You know, whether it's like creating, like helping build concepts for the characters that you have, for like the worlds that you're planning to build, or that the worlds that you're like writing about, or, you know, illustrating for your projects. Any kind of like passion project that like, you know, anyone who has a passion project that like, you know, needs an illustrator to like help, you know, help like boost it a bit, I would love to help, because, you know, the more excited the creator is about their work, the more excited I get too about helping, you know, build it up. And like it's, yeah, just like for now I would love to just like illustrate and just keep making art, you know, any way I can, whether it's cosplay, whether it's like, you know, making props for someone else, or like drawing things for someone else, or myself too. But yeah.
No, that sounds great. So you all heard her. This is collaboration with cosplay and illustration. So Apolonia Nunez, everybody. Thank you so much for being my guest. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
If you want to know more about her, you can follow her on, what's your Instagram they can follow you on?
Yeah, so Apple N Art, I think, is the Instagram that I'm using for art. So,
all right, so I will have that in the description. Also, any other links that you could go to, I will have that in the description as well. So I thank you so much for joining me, and be on the lookout for her. She's amazing.
Thank you.
All right, take care, and everybody else, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.